Hey everybody, and welcome. We're not going to waste any time today. Let's go ahead and jump right into the third block of the Espresso Skintone Series. And we'll also finish up with the fourth block as well in this video, so stay tuned. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump right into this third block. So this time around, you'll notice in my pigment, I did not include any thinning medium. I actually only did thinning oil because I want these last two blocks, the layers in these last two blocks, to be more pigmented. I want to be able to see the paint. So with that being said, I just did not do the thinning medium for these last two rounds. However, the instructions on the Espresso Skintone card, as well as Americano, will tell you to add thinning medium. It's completely up to you, but this is just what I prefer to do. So as we mentioned in our last video, that this shading is going to be staggered. So we know that with the second block, we were a little bit closer towards the highlighted area. And with this third block, we're going to start shading around here, around this area on the kit itself. And that means on the forehead, we won't come down as low. We're going to come here because we want to be able to see a gradient value of color. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And in the face, all we're going to do is just remember that we're going to go into every last crease, but we won't take this darker color all the way across, just like we did with 1 and 2. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll go into the crease completely. And then here we'll concentrate this color more so on the inner part of the eye. And then we'll go about midway. Go into that crease. Same thing on this side. We'll go into the crease. Inner part of the eye. And a little bit above in this area so we can darken that as well. Guys, I'm sorry if you hear any music. I don't know what my neighbors have going on this big Wednesday at 11 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, I'm going to go halfway. And you want to be careful with creases like under eyes. I mean, we don't want this to be heavily lined because then that just looks unnatural. Let's go into the crease around the nose. And this really helps to give the illusion that, you know, this is really a real baby with this real facial expression. So it helps to darken it up right here. And that really does give an illusion of realness. Going into the nostrils. And we'll start from here. Instead of coming straight down, because we already see some of that shading from previous layers in the underpainting. I don't want that to be too stark. So because we're on the third block, I'm not going to do as much. Just a little bit, because we still want to darken and put color in those areas, but we just don't want it to be so stark. And instead of doing this entire part, I'm just going to really focus it on the center. And then I'll go into the corners of the mouth and the lips. Same thing over here. Taking this darker color, not going all the way, like for instance on block 2, I went to this point on the lip. So I'm going to go halfway. Because remember, everything is about value and showing dimension in the painting. But the top lip, however, I am going to go probably about, well, I say however, but I'm probably going to do the same thing. And then we're going to focus more out here on the chin. we've built in some depth here. So we're gonna go in there a little bit, in here. And then we'll do the creases. A little mop brush, or what I'm using as a mop brush. And because this is more of a liquid, that's why I'm pulling this out again, because with the thinning medium, I don't really have to do a whole lot of this cleanup with the mop brush, because it, the consistency is pretty stable. But with something that has a runnier viscosity, then we want to make sure we are getting up any excess, because we don't want muddy creases. So let's go ahead and it's best whenever you first start if you have a cosmetic wedge that's a little bit drier. Now this one I'm not sure, we're gonna see, because I use the same wedge or same wedges for a doll. I'll even use, as long as I can, I'll use the wedges on various dolls, on multiple dolls, if I can, because I mean, hey, waste not, want not. Now I'm just going into these creases here. I'm really trying to concentrate on the areas of where the paint is. I don't want to spread it too much, because if I spread it, that defeats the purpose of having the paint, whenever I applied it, of stopping midpoint. Okay, we want everything blended, because we don't want anything to just stay in that area, because that's just not natural. So now let's go ahead and get our bigger brush. And oh, this is what I meant to show you guys. Right here, I didn't notice it until we got into the darker layers, but right here I was missing, this was missing paint. So what I did was I took some matte varnish and I just varnished this area right here, so that the paint, or the subsequent layers of paint, will actually be able to stick. And by the time it's all said and done, it will blend. But just in case you ever run into that problem, that's a little trick for you. So let's go ahead and look at the side of the kit. And we know that block 2 was about right here. So block 3 will start about here. So we're going to look at the forehead. We don't want to come down as far as we did with block 2, because again, we want to have a gradient scale of value to show that contrast for dimension purposes. And I'm still going over the entirety of the ear with this first layer of block 3. And more than likely for the following layers, I'm just going to go into those depth areas with this block, because I don't want the ear to be one color. And in order for those various colors to show up, or not various colors, but values, various values to show up, I have to repeat this step in the same area a few times. But if I go over this, ear every single time, it'll become flat. So when I'm done with this layer, I'll only go into like this area, the top of the ear here, and in the ear where the ear canal goes. Because of course I want all of that to appear darker. Let's continue to get the back of the head. And I have my pen handy because we'll do number 3 and then we'll mark the layers as we go. So that way, if I have to stop or continue tomorrow, I know exactly where I am and how many more layers I need to do on the other pieces to make sure that they all match. Okay, and I'm just going to bring this down a little bit. To the side. Trying to get my paper towel situated. It's in the brush holder. Let's get to pouncing. And adding that matte varnish, and the matte varnish that I use, by the way, is Gemini. That's a Bountiful Baby matte varnish. The best matte varnish, if you ask me. Just provided some texture onto the kit, whereas this was slick before. That was the reason why the paint wasn't sticking. So by adding that matte varnish, it creates some texture for paint to be able to cling on to. Trying to keep the highlighted areas highlighted as long as I can. Let's just here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let this air dry. And then we will pop it into the oven and go from there. Okay, so let's get into these limbs. So I went in with 5 layers of block 3, and this is the result of those layers. We made it, guys. So let's go ahead and dive into block 4. I am using the same thinning oil that I did in block 3 here on block 4. I just have a little bit different pigment as noted in the Espresso Skintone recipe card. As I previously mentioned, I am making sure that I'm going into the very top portion of the ear and into the ear canal with block 4 because I want this to be the darkest. We want the ears to have a variation of color so that they don't appear like they're one color, because we know that our ears are different shades of our skin tone. As I begin to shade the head, I'm keeping in mind where I want and need for this color to stop. And I'm basing it off of, you guessed it, the inspiration. With this layer, you want to be ever so careful to make sure you're controlling the brush and that you don't put the color exactly where you want it to stop, but just a little bit above it, because whenever you go to blend it, that color is going to naturally blend out. So we're going to add the necessary layers for block 4, and I'm going to let you guys just watch because it's pretty much the same thing as we did in block 3. Just of course I have different starting and ending points, but that is all subjective, you know, at your discretion of where you want it to land on your particular baby. But at least you get to see the process, so stick around until the end and I'll have some shots of Maddie, or videos of Maddie that I sent to mom while I was working on her. But thank you guys so much for watching, so much for tuning in, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments. On the membership side, we are enjoying going back to the basics of art and doing what we can to learn what's necessary for creating realistic black babies, or at least what I feel is necessary. So I hope to see you guys in the next video, and I will see you soon. Bye.